Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Tony Mobley. We are having a accessibilities panel today. So we want everyone to sit back and participate in this opportunity to have this wonderful conversation today. This is episode 2 of 2025 of Conversation with Tony Mobley, and this conversation is powered by Mimo Live. I want to thank everyone, the team behind Conversation with Tony Mobley, for all of your hard work. And you can watch Conversation with Tony Mobley on YouTube as well as our website, conversationwithTonyMobley.com. This is an interactive chat conversation that's powered by Alex Lindsay and 090, and it's called Mukana. There you can actually ask your questions. Those questions can be voted up and down, and you can make sure that your questions get answered. And now we're going to get right into it. I have two amazing guests with me today. We have Mandy Van Cleave and Harshid Trivedi, and they are here with me today to talk about accessibilities. And so before we get into accessibilities, we're going to ask each guest to give us a little bit about who they are and how they got to this position that they are in life. And we're going to start with Mandy. Welcome, Mandy.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on the show, Tony, and welcome to all the guests who are watching. Um, if you want to know a little bit about me, I break that down into three different categories. I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother in my family life, a daughter, a sister, a cousin, an aunt, and constant seeker of knowledge in my personal and my volunteer life. And in my work life, I'm an assistive technology trainer and I also do technical support in that area.
Thank you so much. Harshid Trivedi.
Wow, that's gonna be difficult to go after that right there. So short and sweet and to the wow. Okay. Uh, I'm Harshid Trivedi. I'm a blind individual from the Central Florida area. I recently have embarked into a journey with YouTube, and my channel's name is called Who Cares A11Y Bar. Bar standing for Blind Accessible Resource. That's what I consider myself, and I want to take my knowledge and help the audience out there. Aside from that, I have familiarities with Windows products, familiarities with Android products, and as well as I've a iOS device that I know pretty well, but others that use it every day might be a little bit better at it than me. And again, as Mandy said, we're just knowledge seekers. We just love to soak up any new information or try something new. And again, it's great to be here and Happy New Year to you, Tony.
Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you so much. Thank you both. The first question is, what is assistive technology? So we're going to start with you, Harshid, first, and then we're going to go to Mandy.
Any technology that aids you in doing that task, right? Uh, Assistive can be something that maybe from your normal senses has limitation to your function to do that task. It could be simple as for me where I have vision loss, so I use a screen reader, and that is a assistive technology that aids me to use a computer, to use a phone, and to live my daily life. I cane may not seem like it, but still it is a technology of sorts, and it may have technology built in where you might have a smart cane and such, which again we could get into a little later, but that's a little brief summarization. Maybe Mandy might have more to say.
Okay, Mandy.
To me, assistive technology it's something that you may be using a mainstream device and there's some type of an adaptation that would allow someone who has some difficulties using mainstream or not so mainstream devices in something adaptive or that would accommodate you so that you can use a computer, a smartphone, a tablet, and there are special settings built into a lot of these devices these days. That's what's something that's really cool about assistive technology today, is that it's built into a lot of our really heavily used mainstream devices like smartphones and tablets and computers, whether that's Windows, Mac, or other platforms. And there, you might need additional hardware or additional software to make that experience better for you.
Thank you both very much. We have a question from Warwick, Old Australia. And the question is from Mr. Zachary Sorensen. How far has it come in the past 40 years, and how do you see it improving? And we're just going to assume that he's talking about technology, assistive technology. And we're going to go with Harshid first.
Okay, so in the past 40 years, if we just look at communication in general, I'm trying to think about the telegram and what did the telegram do for us?
Okay.
What was that as a technology? However, I know people that are on ham radio and have had to have some of these certifications that I can't think of the language offhand, but it has to deal with dits and dots. It'll come to me, but anyhow, having to learn a different language, it's no different than learning Braille. So I think if we really look at what is available to us today, including Braille, including just basic typewriter, a QWERTY keyboard. Why is a QWERTY keyboard staggered? Why is a typewriter staggered? It's because a typewriter would get jammed. And so if we take technologies of our past and if we just look at it today, we've taken a lot of what we've learned and just made it a little bit better, and if not better, converted it into a digital format.
Mandy?
I've been thinking back over the 15 plus years that I've been doing assistive work in assistive technology, and I think about how much this was around 2010, 2011. A lot of the technology that I worked with between 2010 and 2015, not much changed during that time. We had some pretty heavy devices back then. You couldn't really get a video magnifier that was very light weight for a person with low vision to enlarge information. They were really heavy. They were, we had CRT, really huge monitors back then. And I remember trying to lug a 17-inch monitor that was a CRT up the stairs from the basement, and that was quite a large monitor for the time, and I wouldn't use a 17-inch monitor today. In fact, I have some 32-inch monitors on my desk, but they're flat, and things have become a lot lighter in weight, a lot more portable, so that you're not having to lug things around. Some things they were stuck in that one room, so you had to go to a certain area to go use those. And some of these things are in our pockets today. So I
Absolutely.
think that has come a long way. There's a screen reader I'm very familiar with called JAWS, and that's Job Access with Speech, getting ready to celebrate its 30th year anniversary this year, and there's going to be some special events that the company that makes that software, Freedom Scientific, is going to put on. And I'm thinking back to right around 2015 when things started to really change, and it started getting a little bit harder to keep up with all the improvements in technology. And optical character recognition came about in part of I've mentioned video magnifiers before. That's some of the hardware, and the optical character recognition. You could put a page into a scanner that was typed, printed materials, and the scanner would pull that text. And now I can put my smartphone camera on something that is handwritten today, and it would do the optical character recognition for that. So I've just seen and voice recognition. There's so much speech recognition technologies have improved. Mainly, I would say the past 10 years, especially with the invention of the smartphones that we have today, like Android and iPhone.
I agree. Thank you both so much for sharing that. And Zachary's back, and I have to make a correction. Zachary is from Warwick, Queensland, Australia. And his question is, in the US, do the kids have high physical needs have the opportunity to do main STEM schooling, or they put it into special needs unit? And I'll go first on this one. Um, I've been out of the classroom about 13 years now, but our students in the U.S., at least I worked in Georgia, and all the students have IEPs that are in special education, and those IEPs are tailored programs that the students have access to whatever they need that will help them in their education journey. And so the school and the parents collaborate on what is on each IEP. They're personalized, and they ensure that the best opportunity for the students is made possible, and those IEPs are evaluated. And if the students make progress, then they move to new goals. But if not, then they continue to work on the goals until they make the appropriate adjustment so that they can continue in their educational journey. And Mandy, you can go next. And if you want to add something to that.
Yes, and some of this is decided by the states, the departments of education in each state. I know in my state, a lot of the public school, I live in Ohio, and a lot of the public schools, they'll have a special education department with a whole team of staff equipped to handle very varying needs for students. So there's paraprofessionals, and it's usually up to the parents on whether they homeschool or send students to a private school, or there are schools for the blind in our country, in the United States, that that's a personal choice that a student and a family would make together. But in the public schools, they have something called an individualized education plan that spells out for the school year what the student's going to learn and how they're going to learn it. And that is, like, as I said, the I in IEP is individualized for that student's needs. So that's one of the uh, in as far as public K to 12 knowledge, school, kindergarten through 12th grade. So early education on through high school. It's a little bit different in college, where a lot of the universities have accessibilities teams. They have a either disability services, accessibility services. They have different names, but there's they help you out with all the accommodations that you might need to continue your education.
Harshid?
Yeah, so I could kind of take you through the pathway of how I went through it. And again, as they mentioned of the IEPs, when I was in grade school, basically until 12th grade here, I was always assigned a teacher of vision impairment with having vision loss. So TVI is the acronym that we use out here for that. And there's a state agency here in Florida, and many other states have something very similar. But just to explain what Florida does, so then these state agencies are scattered around like Miami, east, west, north, south, so to speak, such like Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, so on and so forth. But they're basically a format of how students could either get help from grants and such that are available to the Department of Education, and then they could receive services if they need them. So maybe for mobility training, or how I did in 2005, I was offered to have training to have my first job where I was doing data entry with records, CD albums, vinyl. So it was just a great experience, just nonetheless, to see what it is like. And you have that opportunity even for other abilities. As we mentioned, St. Augustine is the home to Ray Charles, where he went to school. There are other people that have definitely took to have their route that way. Some have done the homeschool thing. I've done the public education route, and of course, when I got to college, Division of Blind Services here is still available to me for my education goals, and then my VR, vocational rehab goals. So try to help me find a job after that opportunity. So I might have a job offering of doing a certain task and getting paid for that task or learning that task, maybe web dev, 5 weight compliant, something of that nature. And then that person, after they reach their goals, they're employed, obviously. So it's to obviously have good outcomes out of this. But sometimes I think the main goal of any of this is don't give up, keep trying. So that's a bit of my way there.
Thank you. Thank you, Harshid. Thank you, Mandy. And thank you, Zachary from Warwick, Queensland, Australia. Thank you, sir. Clyde Lopez Waterman in Madison, Wisconsin, USA, has a question for us. Could the panel tell us a story that they shocked a room full of underestimating folks and lifted them all up? You too, Tony. So we'll start with Mandy.
Had to think really hard about this one. For the first time ever, I presented at a conference about a year ago from now, in 2024. And I went into this presentation because I signed up. There was a whole advanced thing where you're submitting your proposal to present at the conference, and I it was a topic that was near and dear to my heart that I'd always wanted to present because I couldn't find the information out there anywhere. I had to come up with it was an adaptation of using a tablet for somebody who didn't have the motor control with their fingers to do the voiceover gestures on an iPhone or an iPad. And so for those either needed to not be able to see the screen and do the flicking gestures, or you needed there's other adaptations. It's called switch control, and there was a special device that if you could push the button out, and there were two different buttons on a special device I used called a Bluetooth, and it was a Bluetooth switch device that didn't have any wires, and it could connect to the phone by Bluetooth. And there was a way to use this device with speech, and so that it was speech output, so the user who couldn't see the screen would hear what was happening on the screen. And it was very similar. So if a, a person with vision loss uses voiceover, they're usually flicking right to get to the next item on the screen. Well, if they couldn't really do that with their hands, for example, there were some of my clients had brain injuries or something like multiple sclerosis that limited their vision and their motor control. So the main attendees at this conference in uh, the Assistive Technology Industry Association, ATIA, and it was held in Orlando, Florida last year. And I met a few of the people whose names we've heard tonight in person, and some other people I knew from other accessibility events. And there were people, and one of my coworkers joined us, and we flew to Orlando, made this presentation to a room full of teachers, educators, other assistive technology providers like myself, And it was just information that wasn't already out there that you could just go to YouTube and watch a video about it. So I was really proud to present that and basically show them that a person without vision could use switch control with that speech feedback that was coming from Apple.
Thank you, Harshid.
So I'm going to take you guys back to a journey back to India. The banks there gave me a little issues just for my vision loss, so to speak. Let's just put it that way. And I go about and just start using my phone and screen reader this and that and whipping it around and matter of fact showing them the apps that we have here and how quickly I could access my information at least. And so it led to almost a conversation to put me, as the gentleman said, you're a 10 percenter. And I'm like, what does that mean? Well, like, you're smart with your technologies, not everybody else is. But that logic in itself is really flawed, right? Because it wasn't that I was trying to impress anybody, but I knew what I was talking about. And that did lead to some, let's put it this way, employment changes. But it was just that factor of standing up for what I knew, or at least protecting myself from my. It's my information I'm sharing with said bank or whatever it is, any entity. So having that kind of wow, this person knows what he's talking about kind of thing was it was an interesting feeling, but at least good came out of it, where they fixed their wrongdoings and actually accepted change.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mandy. I guess my story is, well, I have a lot of stories, but one that I would share would be um, in my classroom. Actually, it's kind of, I had I actually had three classrooms, um, and I had high school students, and we were primarily working on life skills. There wasn't a lot of academic work. We did functional skills training. So one of my classrooms was made up like a home where you had to make up your bed, you have to prepare meals, refrigerator, dining, etiquette, all that kind of good stuff. And then we had another classroom that was made up like a factory or workshop. So, and then we had the classroom that was your traditional classroom. So I had these three different classrooms, and we rotated throughout the day to each classroom, and we would have based on the IEP that each student had, we would work what was necessary to do in that particular environment. And so I remember very distinctly, I had one student who we just could not get him to participate, and we were in the classroom that was home functioning uh, environment, and kept trying to get him to attempt to make the bed up. And we were going through it very slowly, very methodically to, try to um, get him to uh, make the bed up. And so what was so funny was that we were we were just going from each student. So they were at different times that fluctuated between 10 to 7 students, fluctuating. Some students would come and go to a different program and that kind of thing. So this particular student, we were going methodically on putting the pillow in the pillowcase and putting the sheet on and put the fitted sheet on, and then the top layer sheet and the blanket, and so on and so come to find out, um, our student, uh, he was left in a room with the paraprofessional. And so they were just in the room, and we came back, and the bed had been made up. And the paraprofessional said that he already knew how to make the bed up. He was just waiting for us to get out of the way. So we we all laughed. And so that was kind of the one of the moments, one of the many moments that I had that kind of blew us away. Um, we have another question from Clyde Lopez Waterman, and the question is, did you listen to books on tape? Is it one of it is one of my favorite things. I am an auditory learner, and words spoken activate my imagination. I'm one of those people too, as well. We're going to go to Hershey.
Yes, indeed. I did start on cassettes, believe it or not. What's interesting through our community and certain people that I've met through office hours as well, uh, you get to find out the interworkings of engineering and this and that and the other. And let's put it this way: I know somebody that used, as far as the story is told, is the cassettes that used to go to them was this individual that was responsible for getting that to them. But I've now gone to the digital route. They do have cartridges, and the main recording library actually is in my city of Daytona Beach, Florida. Here, um, and it's the reading for the deaf, uh, reading or dyslexic, and for vision loss. Those are kind of more multitudes, but if you fit under those categories, you could get pretty much any books, and it's from the National Library Services. And so that was one method. Right now, I'm reading Connolly's books. They're basically like crime novels. If you ever watched the Bosch series on Amazon, they're basically the same sounding almost because they're audiobooks with the little bit of music and the characters that voiced even the audio description and so on and so forth on the Bosch series. The character is almost the same, so it definitely does paint a wonderful picture. Imagination definitely goes wild with it. And then for grabbing you just information, actual information, some writers have a really great way of delivering with great writing skills that way. So having that read out to you and to have a log or even tabs and highlight markers or anything like that you could use for any of the different various readers that they are, I think is definitely a game changer. And again, it changes the point of view of you could be at your house, you could be in your car. Uh, it gives a lot of versatility.
Mandy?
Thank you. I was a very avid print book reader in my youth up until I started having a really hard time keeping my place in the book. I would just lose my place so much. And it got to the point where I started listening to audiobooks. So it was on cassettes back then it was on CDs, then they started coming out with different kinds of MP3 players that you could put your books on, and now everything's just on my iPhone. So I'm also a member of Bard that Harshid mentioned, of the National Library Services, and I subscribe to Audible so that I can get some books that maybe Bard doesn't have right away. So yeah, I'm an audiobook listener through and through. Had to stop reading print books partway through college.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Clyde Lopez Waterman, for your question. And the next question is, how has your family contributed to who you are now? And we're going to start with Mandy.
I like that question. Thank you. So I had thought about that one. Um, so if I you heard I gave you a little bit of a clue there at the beginning where I mentioned I'm a grandmother, and so I my husband and I, we had our children very young, and we had a lot of help from my family and his so that we could continue our college education with young children. And then just all the positive encouragement that I got from my family throughout career changes through the years. And so that every little step of every day, there's something that contributes to who I am, whether that's um, my work life, my family life, my personal life outside of family stuff like volunteering. And I have found that watching family members struggle with things and just wanting to be somebody that helped others. I think that was the biggest contribution to who I am today in the choices that I make for work and personal life too.
Thank you. Harshid?
So, who am I today? Essentially, is because of my parents' upbringing of me all these years. I think the values are number one, and also for what our family together stood for. We usually are the type to do for others and not do for each other. So I might not do for my mom or dad, and they might not do for me, but that doesn't mean that's a bad thing. It's if someone's in need, then as all three of us, we could help that one person get up and get going. So a lot of what I've looked at, even from today, and thinking about this year, there's been a lot of loss. However, you have to kind of take the loss and try to make it to positive. And that was from my mom and my dad. Um, they have gone through their trials and tribulations. They have passed. My mom passed away from metastatic breast cancer. My dad did pass away in 2003, uh, different ailments and stuff. But being in the hospital for April to July with my dad and experiencing all of those things that you have to endure, it makes you tougher. You learn through a lot of what I learned through when he passed. And with me and my mom, he passed when he was only 46. Mom passed away at 66. So within that time frame, the skills and what have you that we still pick up along the way, or the always networking with people, I think that is what really becomes important. And again, do what you can for your community, because more than likely your community is always going to bring you back up. And this is how I found this community of people of like-minded. Some maybe might disagree with certain thoughts, but at least we could converge and converse with each other. So I think having that ability to be born in Africa, having that ability to have family in India, to have that gratefulness of my family and my mom's side of the family to bring us to this country and to be a citizen of America right now. And, again, to be able to help in your backyard or across the pond or what have you, it's one and the same. So I really think that I am who I am because of my parents.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mandy. The, the next question is, what do people need to know about you? What is it? What is, what do they need to know about you? So we're going to go with Mandy first.
Okay, this is really one of those introspective questions. So, if I, that's what do people need to know about me? I mentioned this in my intro earlier too, as well, that I am a constant knowledge seeker. If there's something that I want to figure out how to do, I will put in the time and put in the work to figure it out. And there's other things like, if you tell me about a problem that's happening, I may get stuck on trying to solve that problem. Or sometimes I'll sleep on it and I will wake up with the solution. So there I love giving ideas for things like that and just thinking about issues that need solving. But yeah, that constant knowledge seeking and problem solving, I'm on it.
Okay. Harshid.
Those are some great suggestions there at the end. The knowledge seeking definitely is what I am, and I guess some people have called me out for being analytical about things, but let's just put it out there. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I like to be able to be helpful in many cases or be valued in that sense. Um, well, that's where I find value for myself personally is that sometimes people have their own perspective. They might have complete vision loss. And to take that person and understand what they're going through, it just takes a moment to kind of flip it around on your own self. And I think something about me personally is, as Mandy and I kind of probably share that same trait of it, is we like to problem solve or help figure out that situation. However, at this point, who I am is again someone that's just trying to make it through and not give up on whatever successes that are available to me in front of me. And that doesn't mean it's my successes because to help others, you gain a successful community around you. And there's always wealth of knowledge to be built out of the communities we share upon the knowledge that we know. So again, it's like taking the accessibility aspects as we've brought the show to. Uh, I do know my technology, but I also perceive it differently because I like putting myself in other people's shoes. I don't know how to read Braille, but I will go do the research for somebody to make sure that they get that Braille device in a reasonable accommodation price, etc. Even if they're across the, in South Africa, let's just say. Or you may have something where who I am is someone that's willing to listen to somebody and their end goals at making something work for you. Maybe I might be that person that motivates you, even though I might not have my own personal motivation on par right now. But as I help others, it kind of it rejuvenates me by doing that. So yeah,
Thank you. Thank you both for that. I'm just going to share a little bit, real briefly, of what I want someone to know about me is that this time last year I was in the rehab facility, and I was told at that time that I was going to be placed in a nursing home and that um, there was no recovery for me. Um, they had written me off. And so my wife made the decision that that was not going to be the case. I was able to come home, and I went into, I was in home, and I was in a hospital bed at home. And I had to use a trapeze bar and a bedside commode in the room and all kinds of things. And it looked very, very dreary. And I want you to know that since that time, I was in that hospital bed in the room from February 8th until the end of August. And at that point in time, in the beginning of September, I continued to make progress. But in the interim, because I had been written off, they ordered a power wheelchair for me because I wasn't going to be able to walk again. But I want you to know that power wheelchair is just sitting over there in the corner because I am walking around doing everything I need to do and driving myself everywhere I need to go. And so it's I'm very happy to share that all with all of you, and I contribute all of that to a higher power. And I just wanted to share that because you know like I said, this time last year, I was definitely not in a position to have a conversation with you two individuals. So thank you so much
that's
for
fantastic,
again for
Tony.
being
We're so happy
for
for you,
being
Tony.
with me.
Yes.
Uh, we have Clark Lopez Waterman coming back in again from Madison, Wisconsin. Have you thought about starting your own show? And we're going to go with Mandy.
I've been doing a little dabbling, learning some video editing skills. I think it's always been something I've wanted to do. I got a good foundation from the office hours community. I have to give them their props for that, and I think most of us ended up here through them as well. So um, I'm learning quite a bit about how to do that, and I think Harshid, there's some things we're working on for the future, and just some things I've been doing personally and with Office Hours Global. So yeah, I'm thinking
Okay.
about it.
All right, Harshid.
All right. So, yes, definitely think, well, a show is one thing, but then also doing other creations is the other aspect of it. Um, it's interesting that you mentioned as a show because a lot of people that have given me ideas have mentioned, "Hey, I could link you up with said person, this person, that person." That conversation is going to be a great show. However, just to take a kind of glimmer back to Asia, ATIA, um, Tlalika, you gave me this booster rocket shot of Kennedy Space Center juice of whatever kind it was. But your motivation really kicked my gears into super speed after that point. I mean, it's been from last year, but the thought never went away. It made things feel more comfortable. Right now, my struggles are graphic arts because, again, the blinkers don't work too well. So the graphics don't come out as well. So there's that. And then learning, right? One piece I learned is about branded accounts. So that gives me the ability to then ask for help from others. So again, this is also a conversation we could help each other out. If we're all new at this and we're trying to do what we're trying to do, having that branded account offers at least, as Mandy alluded to, maybe asking Mandy, hey, could I please get help with this or that? Or, hey, Bobby or Jimmy or Johnny or Susie or whoever. I could at least get that assistance with that channel. And again, teamwork is always where everything works like 10 times better, I would say. Because again, it's one little piece you have to worry about less with somebody else's eyes on it. So the channel's name is Who Cares A11Y Bar. A11Y stands for accessibility. So thank you, Tony, for this conversation on accessibility. And then the bar, blind accessible resource. I hope to learn from Tony, from Mandy, from everybody that I come across to give them that resource of how I got here with the knowledge and the seeking that I did and asking the right questions or maybe the wrong questions.
Well, thank you both for answering that question. Um, and so we are doing a conversation with Tony Mobley, and the conversation with Tony Mobley actually started out as it really started out as an opportunity to help a public official become um, more technology savvy in terms of his campaigning. And then we decided that we were going to actually do some technology conversations for senior citizens. And it has transformed from that to where we are now. So, but Harshid, if you need any help with the brand accounts, let me know because we we have a brand account, and thanks to Jeffrey Powers, we have a brand account. And if you need some assistance with that, I can share a little bit of knowledge that I have that I know about it, and then
Thank you.
I know that he's willing to share any information that he has regarding brand accounts. And Clark Lopez Waterman is asking you to repeat your website, Hershey.
So current of YouTube wise, if the basic youtube.com /, so the /, just type in WCAB, so W as in whiskey, Charlie, Alpha, Bravo, or Who Cares, Accessibility, Blindness, or Bar, excuse me. Either way works. So again, the basic YouTube link, but then /WCAB. And again, I'll once I get some more information, do look forward to passing it around. Office hours has definitely been a place of getting information passed around to people. But thank you so much for that question.
Thank you. And we're going to, before we go into our few last questions, I want to share my screen. I hope that I don't, I'm going to ask for forgiveness from my back end team, make sure I'm not um, disrupting us too much. This is, this is a source page that I got from, I'm going to be transparent, I got it from ChatGPT. And I just wanted to share technology accessibility support, and it has Apple devices, and there's a link there. It says accessibility support help. You click on that, it takes you into the Apple website, and it shows you all of the different Apple assistive technology devices that are available that are already in iOS. And then the same thing for Microsoft. We have the same thing. There's a link for that, and you can just do a web search for that. And then we have web and app accessibilities, which is web content accessibility guidelines. And so, if we had Laura Thompson on with us, I know she would break this all down for us extremely well. And I just want to share these quick things with you. Physical accessibility support, mobile aids, local organizations, medical suppliers may provide wheelchairs, rentals, ramps, and other devices. Community resources, organizations like ADA, Americans with Disabilities in the U.S., advocates for accessibility. And number four, education and advocacy, National Federation for the Blind or Hearing Loss Associations of America. So I just want to share those with you very quickly. And we're going to get down to our last questions. And the last couple of questions, the last one, the next one is recommendations for parents for additional supports for their children. So we're going to start with Harshid first, and then we'll go to Mandy.
So for support for children, um, there's two pieces there. Is it the parent trying to learn the technology, or is it the child trying to learn the technology? One organization that I am a part of is the iBlind Users Group out of Houston, Texas, ibugtoday.org. They offer, with mentors and mentees, opportunity to learn, let's say, your screen reader with learning voiceover, or learning the different pieces of that assistive technology that the iOS devices may offer. I personally, on that call, handle the Android side, but again, my resource, where would I would take it is to an educator, right? And or get into that educator's mindset. So there are plenty of resources at universities that offer certain criterion. So that's a good resource just to look at. Um, I think Mandy would probably be also better at answering some of these parts because some of these pieces we work together, just learning some of these pieces. I'll give it to Mandy to see what she thinks.
Okay, Mandy.
Oh, yeah. So for additional supports for children, so recommendations for parents. Communication is one of the biggest keys to finding out about their resources. You have to talk to other parents, talk to teachers, talk to administrators at the school or facility or wherever your um, different places that you go, the medical providers, hospitals, doctors, uh, nurses, just whatever resources you're looking for. You may even have to do some of your own searching online. Doesn't have to necessarily be local resource, but talking with other parents in similar scenarios that you and your children are in can be very helpful there. Find a support group, find about your local resources, ask around. It may be quite a bit of legwork, but you'll find a few different spots that that you didn't know about before that could enrich your lives.
And I'd just like to add to everything that's already been said. I think one of the most important things is that you be the best advocate for your child that you can be. There is nothing more important than a parent who is an advocate for their child, particularly if their child has special needs. And I just lift up my mother-in-law who was an advocate for my special needs nephew. She was constantly going to conferences and seeking information, and there was nobody that was going to stop her from getting as much knowledge and support for her grandson than her. And so, um, even in when you're having IEP meetings, I would just encourage you to make sure that you reach out to clergy, family, and friends. Have them come in and be a support for those IEP meetings. It's extremely important. And we're going to go to our next question. So, what is next for Mandy Van Cleave? What's next for you?
What's next? Take every day one day at a time, and it's funny how I've watched just how things have evolved over time, just with one little move, and that changed the whole path that I was on. And so I worked somewhere for 13 years, and I felt like, oh, I should have moved up here, or I mean, something should have changed with my career in this time. But I took that opportunity to really learn a lot about assistive technology and what I do for work. And and now I'm with a company that in just the short amount of time that I've worked there, just a little bit over 6 months, they're already recognizing my talents and putting me where I can best serve the needs of the customers with my talents. And that feels really good to me. And again, I'm also learning some new skills that I didn't have before, that I've always wanted to really get a lot better at video editing. And it's funny how actually this new position, there was a contest to enter, and one of the requirements was to create a video. And I mean, you make videos, but I had never done editing, and I wanted to do some things to make it look like something was just stitch some things together that were separate clips. And
Okay.
I had to learn how to do that. And so I'm taking all those skills to the next level. So that's what's next for me. Some more, it's getting better with my video editing skills, and um, moving up in the world with assistive technology talents.
So I'm curious, what did you use for the project?
You know what? Oh, there is an app called InShot on the iPhone. I know a lot of people use something like CapCut to edit, but this was one that I found, and I tried a few other things, and I couldn't quite figure out the aspect ratio and having all the right 9 by 16 or 16 by 9 and all that sort of thing. But this one, it lets me pick the canvas, and it was my level of skill at the time of being a new person at using these types of software that so yeah, InShot. There's some as artificial intelligence kind of tools that have come along since I started using it that make things a little bit easier. So there's I've done some fun stuff with it since then. So
Okay. Thank you. Harshid, what's next for you
For me, what
besides the new show?
for me honestly is to figure out some sort of other employment as well. I am pretty involved within the community at this point, so I want to kind of continue on that trajectory. I recently was able to go to a meeting regarding transportation with my county leadership and was able to get some assistance after the meeting. So if just having my story out there help somebody to make decisions or to understand my community better, then why not? So I think being more impactful in the community is one thing that I want to work on, or that's what's kind of happening or what's next. Um, Aside from that, the web 508 compliance stuff is something that is intriguing. The digital accessibility part is interesting, but is that something that is easy for me to understand, or is that something that I like to do? So that might be also what's next upcoming. Just to, I had an offer recently to be put in a class, so we'll see if that's worth it for employment for the future. So just a few things there.
Okay. And we're down to our last question, which, if you've watched Conversation with Tony Mobley, you already know what it is. And so the question is, you're speaking to the world. What do you want the world to know? And we're going to start with Harshid.
All right, world. So here we are, and it is 2025. We have many opportunities day by day because each day is an opportunity because we woke up. So I think that we might have some trials and tribulations that we all go through, but it makes us stronger individuals. Uh, More kindness that we give out to people. We don't have to worry about receiving it back, but we are making change, and that change is always going to be a good impact to your surroundings or your community. So I think that, you know, that kind of message to hold you accountable for what you do for your people, how you treat your family, how you treat your siblings, how you treat each other as just colleagues or friends, etc. So again, a little bit of respect for each other and kindness, I think, will always get us to be a stronger being. We're always willing to learn. We're always learning from each other, from different cultures, different aspects of life, vision loss, maybe, accessibilities, maybe, technologies, maybe. But let's just be kind to each other. And thank you so much, Tony, for having us, or having me, especially this evening.
Thank you, sir, so much. Mandy?
I would also like to speak on kindness. Just you never know what struggles somebody is having. You can't really look at somebody and know what kind of struggles they're having that day or even more long term in their life. You just can't tell that by even spending minutes or hours with the person. There may be some struggles that you're not going to see on the surface, and a little bit of kindness goes a long way. And you may have to sometimes put yourself in another person's shoes and figure out, well, how, if you do know some difficulties that a person's having, put yourself in their shoes and don't let fear, or not knowing what to do in that situation, um, don't let that bother you to think that you wouldn't know how to help or be kind to a person. You might just ask. And kindness goes a long way again.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for being with me today. I really appreciate having you both. And this is not going to be the last accessibilities conversation that we have. Thank you so much again. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by valued audio visual professionals who meet daily in Office Hours Global, hosted by Alex Lindsay. Again, we want to thank Memo Live for powering this conversation. And we ask that you stay tuned for great and new conversation with Tony Mobley. We want to thank everyone for the 100 plus episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley that exist. And when you have time, we ask that you look back at some of those conversations on Conversation with Tony Mobley. And we think you will find something that you might like that might be helpful to you. We want to thank our guests for being a part of this conversation today, for doing the work that they do, and for being the persons who they are. Next week, we will have Educators Panel Part 2. Next week, Educators Panel Part Two. So we ask that you come back and hopefully participate in that conversation that we're going to have next week. And we want to thank everyone for participating in this conversation, whether you're watching it live or if you watch it later. We ask that you continue to support Conversation with Tony Mobley by liking and subscribing and to Conversations with Tony Mobley. We want to thank everyone so much for their participation, and we want to thank the team behind Conversations with Tony Mobley. We're going to say take care. God bless. See you soon. Good night. Thank you again, guests.
Hey, Hershey, I hope I got that link right. With the WCABAR. It's you have to add the AR to the end. So I posted that in the chat, in the YouTube, and the few different places. Yeah. I was looking it up on my phone while I was